approximately 30 days to complete. So we'll need to come back for sentencing no earlier than 30 days. When would the parties wish?
Imagine a world where loyalty means nothing and family is just a word. Welcome to the twisted reality of Hakeem Ksoo Robinson's life, where betrayal cut deep and the streets demanded their pound of flesh. This 26-year-old ATK rapper's entire world shattered when he heard those guilty verdicts ring out in that Jacksonville courtroom on July 31st, 2025. Based on the verdict of the jury finding you guilty of the offense, the court does hereby remand you to the custody of the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. But what cut the deepest wasn't the sentence. It was the betrayal from his own blood that sealed his fate. Sitting here today, Ksoo realized that he was testifying against not only co-defendants, but family members. When Ksoo heard the guilty verdicts, his entire world crumbled. He stood up slowly at the defense table, his face painted with pure disbelief. The weight of that mandatory life sentence, without parole, hit him like a sledgehammer to the chest. The courtroom footage captured every raw emotion as Ksoo turned to look back at his family in the gallery, seeing emotional relatives watching their loved one's fate being sealed. He shook his head repeatedly, that signature head shake that would become viral across social media platforms within hours. His body language told the whole story. Slumped shoulders, lingering glances at family, and that look of a man who knew his rap career, his freedom, his entire life as he knew it was over. This wasn't just any murder conviction. This was the culmination of a 7-day trial in Duval County Court. The case centered around the January 15th, 2020 execution-style killing of Lil Buck, a 23-year-old rapper with loose ties to the rival KTA gang. What made this murder even more cold-blooded was the timing. It happened exactly 1 year after Ksoo's half-brother Willie Boss Goon Addison was gunned down. The evidence against Ksoo was overwhelming, painting a picture of premeditated murder that would make even the hardest street soldiers cringe. Prosecutors presented dashcam footage showing the shooter chasing and firing at McCormick, with the victim trying desperately to escape before being gunned down in broad daylight. The state's case was built on more than just video evidence. They had rap lyrics from Ksoo's songs that were interpreted as confessions. But the most devastating blow came for within Ksoo's own bloodline. Abdul Robinson Sr, known on the streets as Blue, took the witness stand and identified his own son as the shooter in that dashcam video. This wasn't just any witness. This was the man who helped found ATK, the same gang his son rode for, now pointing the finger directly at his own flesh and blood. The day Charles McCormick was murdered on January 15th, 2020. Does that specific day hold any significance for you and your family? Yes. And why is that day significant in your mind? It's the date that my son got killed. Who was your son that got killed? Will Allison. Is he your biological child? No. Do you still consider him to be your son? Yes. The courtroom was silent as Blue testified, stating, "I know my kids," when asked to identify the shooter. This moment represented more than just testimony. It was a father choosing his own freedom over his son's life. Blue had cut a deal with prosecutors, pleading guilty to accessory charges and agreeing to testify against both his sons in exchange for reducing his potential 60-year sentence to just 76 months. The betrayal cut even deeper when you understand Blue's motivations. He cited health issues, including diabetes, high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, and failing kidneys, as reasons for cooperating. But it wasn't
picture than the one presented by multiple witnesses.
So if I can give a description of how I describe my brother, I would say that I call him fat, slew-footed, which we would say 2 left feet. I call him stocky and tallest. He's a giant to me.
That physical description could be a key part of the defense's strategy and a direct challenge of the prosecution's case. With several eyewitnesses, including Jacksonville police officers, describing the shooter as shorter and slimmer and around 5'8", the Robinson counsel questions how their client can be the shooter when
just about his health. Blue wanted to be there for his younger children, including an 8-year-old daughter and 6-year-old twins. He described the decision as the hardest I've had to make in my life, acknowledging it would make his life harder after release, and that life sentences for his sons might be worse than death. The family dynamics were already fractured, but Blue's testimony shattered whatever remained. Online reactions were mixed, with some viewing it as a father teaching accountability, while others labeled it outright betrayal. Comments flooded social media with reactions like, "Imagine the betrayal," and "If my dad did this, I'd cry on the spot." The streets don't forgive snitching, especially when it comes from your own blood. But Ksoo wasn't the only family member caught up in this web of violence and betrayal. His brother Abdul Robinson Jr. was also charged with second-degree murder in the McCormick case and is set for a separate trial. Their cousin Leroy, ATK Scotty Whitaker, was tried alongside Ksoo as an accomplice and also found guilty of first-degree murder by a separate jury. The evidence against Whitaker was just as damaging. DNA evidence placed him at the scene, including his blood found on the victim's clothing after he cut himself jumping a fence during their escape. A loaded AR-15 rifle found in the getaway car was linked to Whitaker, with the weapon set to fire and containing 26 rounds of ammunition, showing clear intent to kill. The prosecution's star witness was Dominique Barner, the getaway driver, who accepted a plea deal reducing his potential life sentence to 20 years. Barner testified that Ksoo orchestrated the hit, detailing how they found McCormick's address online, waited outside his apartment, and followed him to the plaza where the murder occurred. The defense tried to poke holes in the prosecution's case, arguing that the shooter in the video appeared shorter and slimmer than Ksoo's 6 feet, 1 inch, 230 pounds frame. They also challenged the credibility of witnesses like Barner, noting his history of lying to police and multiple plea deals. But the mountain of evidence was too overwhelming. Fingerprints, DNA, cell phone data, and most damaging of all, his father's testimony sealed Ksoo's fate. Sentencing is scheduled for the week of September 8, 2025, where Ksoo will officially receive his mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. This conviction is just the beginning. He still faces another trial for the 2019 murder of 16-year-old Adrian B.B.Y. Gaynor Jr., where he could potentially receive another life sentence. So, we'll need to come back for sentencing no earlier than 30 days. When would the parties wish to return? Courtroom reactions captured in viral clips showed the raw emotion of a young man watching his life slip away. But they also revealed something deeper about the fractured state of Jacksonville's most notorious gang family. The same streets that made Ksoo a local legend were now demanding their pound of flesh. And the very family members who helped build ATK were the ones tearing it down from within. The betrayal, the violence, the endless cycle of revenge, all led to this moment where a father had to choose between his freedom and his son's life. And he chose himself. This isn't just about Ksoo. This is about the ATK v SKTA war that consumed Jacksonville. The roots of Jacksonville's deadliest gang feud run deeper than most people realize, stretching back to 2017, when territorial disputes and personal beefs began escalating between ATK, AC's top killers, and KTA. Kill Them All, also known as 6 Block. What started as neighborhood beef transformed into a full-scale war that would claim over a dozen lives and turn the city's drill.
The murder trial of Jacksonville rapper Hakeem Ksoo Robinson and his cousin Leroy Whitaker. It's one step closer to going to the jury. Closing arguments began this afternoon. Both men are charged in the 2020 shooting death of 23-year-old Charles Lil Buck McCormick Jr. Prosecutors say the motive involved a diss track McCormick created. News4 Jax reporter Brianna Brownlee has been following this trial from the beginning. She's joining us now live outside the courthouse with the latest on this.
Yes, it was a day full of disruptions in the courtroom.
Rap scene into a literal battleground where diss tracks became death sentences. The spark that ignited this deadly feud came in June 2018 with the ambush at a Waycross, Georgia restaurant where ATK leader Yunjin Ace was shot 8 times, but survived while his brother Trayvon Bullard and 2 associates were killed. KTA was immediately blamed for the hit, and the streets knew this wasn't going to slide. But it was the killing of Willie Boss Goon Addison later that year in a drive-by shooting after a rap event that really set off the powder cake. Willie wasn't just another street soldier. He was Ksoo's half-brother and a respected figure in ATK, and his death would fuel a revenge campaign that's still claiming lives today. The first major retaliation came in February 2019 when 16-year-old Adrian BBY Gaynor Jr., a KTA-affiliated rapper, was shot over 60 times at Hilltop Village Apartments. Prosecutors would later charge Ksoo with this murder, alleging it was direct payback for Willie's death. The cycle of violence continues to this day, and Ksoo is just the latest casualty in this deadly game of revenge. His story is a harsh reminder that in the world of gangs, loyalty means nothing, and family is just a word. As we delve into the story of Ksoo, it's clear that his path was forever altered by the 2018 killing of his half-brother, Willie Addison. But what led up to this pivotal moment? Let's take a step back and explore the world that Ksoo was born into, one of violence, loyalty, and a never-ending cycle of retaliation. Hakeem Armani Robinson, a.k.a. Ksoo, entered the world in 1999 on Jacksonville's north side. This region is known for its strict rules and divisions based on color and family name. From a young age, Ksoo was destined to navigate this treacherous terrain. His father, Abdul Robinson Sr., served as the founder of ATK, a gang that would become synonymous with violence and power. Growing up in a household where gang affiliation wasn't just accepted but expected, young Hakeem learned the rules of the game before he could even tie his shoes. The Robinson home on Normandy was more like a safe house for ATK operations than a place where kids played video games or did homework. Ksoo's older half-brother, Willie, and brother Abdul Jr. were already deep in the life, making the family environment a complex web of loyalty, power struggles, and violence. But before the murders, before the trials, Ksoo was just another young brother from Jacksonville trying to make his mark in the drill rap scene. He emerged around 2019 with a verse in a YouTube video that caught attention in the local underground. His early singles, Can't Think and Ksoo, collectively amassed over 6 million views on YouTube, showing he had the talent to potentially make it out of the streets through music. However, Ksoo's lyrics were laced with a mix of bravado and darkness that would later haunt him in court. His track, Been Dead, featured lines mocking KTA member BBY's death, rapping about smoking Dirk and BBY to the face. What seemed like typical drill rap bravado at the time would become key evidence in murder trials, with prosecutors arguing these weren't just artistic expressions, but literal confessions to real killings. Ksoo also collaborated with ATK leader Young Jin Ace on ATK War, a diss track targeting their KTA rivals. The music video showed young Ksoo surrounded by guns and gang members projecting an image of power and loyalty. But this image would be shattered when Ksoo's alleged involvement in BBY's 2019 murder and Lil Buck's 2020 killing became clear. The cycle of violence continued to escalate, with both sides trading threats and disses.
Today from a 2-hour delay because of witnesses and technical issues from the court causing audio issues during testimony as well as closing arguments. And in a surprising twist, someone from the Robinson family was banned from the courtroom because they were live streaming testimony. However, despite all this, closing arguments did happen, but this was after Hakeem Robinson's older sister took the stand to defend her baby brother.
Hell no.
This was the immediate reaction from Hakeem Robinson's older sister when she first saw the photo of the
social media. The human cost of this war extended far beyond the headlines, leaving families torn apart, mothers burying their children, and a whole generation of young black men from Jacksonville either dead, in prison, or living in constant fear. As we delve deeper into Ksoo's story, it becomes clear that his journey to life without parole was forever intertwined with the ATA rivalry. The feud reached its bloody climax on June 23, 2024, when Julio Fulio was ambushed and killed during his 26th birthday celebration in Tampa. Fulio had been kicked out of an Airbnb party due to overcrowding and relocated to a Holiday Inn, posting his location on Instagram stories, a fatal mistake that allowed his enemies to track him down. The investigation into Fulio's murder was swift, with 5 suspects arrested by late July 2024. Isaiah Chance, Alicia Andrews, Sean Gath, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy all faced first-degree murder charges, with evidence including surveillance footage showing the shooters, cell phone data tracking Fulio's movements, and social media posts linking the suspects to the murder. But even with Fulio's death, the war continued. Young Gene Ace remained active in music, denying involvement in Fio's murder despite facing potential RICO scrutiny. Spina Benz and Wape Chapoa continued to release music amid ongoing scrutiny, while Fast Money Goon maintained a lower profile but continued collaborations with ATK members. The surviving members of both sides continued to trade threats and dices through social media, ensuring this cycle of violence was far from over. The aftermath of Fulio's death left authorities monitoring for retaliation, knowing that each death demanded another in the streets' twisted logic. As we reflect on Ksoo's journey, it becomes clear that his path was forever altered by the events unfolding around him. His alleged involvement in BBY's murder and Lil Buck's killing represented a significant escalation in the violence, transforming personal grief into widespread retaliation. His family's deep involvement with Father Abdul Sr. as ATK's founder and brother Abdul Jr., also facing charges, showed how this wasn't just gang business, it was family business. The ATK versus KTA rivalry didn't just shape Jacksonville streets. It reshaped how law enforcement approaches drill rap and social media in criminal cases. Lyrics and posts now regularly used as evidence in murder trials across the country served as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of this war on families, communities, and individuals like Ksoo. As we approach the end of our journey into the world of Ksoo, it's clear that his story is a harsh reminder of the consequences of violence, loyalty, and betrayal. From the cradle to the cage, Ksoo's life was forever altered by the streets he navigated. His rise to fame as a drill rapper was marred by allegations of murder, his music now serving as evidence in trials that would ultimately lead him down a path from which there was no return. The question on everyone's mind is, what lies ahead for Ksoo? Will he face justice for his alleged crimes? Or will the cycle of violence continue to perpetuate itself? As we say goodbye to Ksoo and the world he inhabited, one thing is clear: the impact of this war will be felt for generations to come. Ksoo's sentence to life in prison, goodbye forever. The world of Jacksonville streets has been a complex tapestry woven with the threads of loyalty, betrayal, and violence. At its center is Ksoo, a young man whose life was forever altered by his involvement in the notorious AA gang war. From the cradle to the cage, Ksoo's journey serves as a harsh reminder of the devastating impact of this conflict on families.
Alleged gunman in the 2020 killing of Charles McCormick, and was questioned if it was her younger brother. In court Wednesday, even now, years later, with her brother on trial accused of that murder, she testified there's no way that's him.
He was approximately 5'8" to 5'10", black male.
Tim Graham is now a retired JSO officer, but 5 years ago, on the day of the shooting, he was one of the officers chasing the shooter and gave the description of 5'8" and a bit athletic.
Did you see this person jump a couple of fences?
Absolutely.
He was able to evade Officer Prater?
And me.
Robinson's sister didn't hold back when describing her brother, painting a different picture.
Communities, and individuals. His rise to fame as a drill rapper was marked by allegations of murder, with lyrics and social media posts now regularly used as evidence in trials across the country. But unlike Ace, whose career scaled nationally with millions of followers, Ksoo's trajectory was cut short by his involvement in real-world violence. The controversy surrounding his music wasn't limited to just its content. It also touched on the violent imagery presented on album covers and social media posts. One such post, captioned "Bye-bye" with waving emojis, was made about Lil Buck, a rival rapper who would later become the victim of Ksoo's alleged violence. Another post stated, "Kill a then go get my toes done," which prosecutors later cited as him bragging about murders on social media. The 2019 album cover, which showed violent imagery, further underscored his immersion in this lifestyle. However, it was his role as an enforcer for ATK that overshadowed his music career. Ksoo's alleged involvement in the February 2019 murder of 16-year-old Adrian BBY Gaynor Jr. marked a turning point in his transformation from rapper to killer. Prosecutors allege Ksoo shot BBY over 60 times at Hilltop Village Apartments as retaliation for Willie Addison's death, showing a level of overkill that suggested deeply personal rage rather than just gang business. The murder was initially charged as second degree, but was upgraded to first degree after a grand jury indictment. The case relies heavily on witness testimonies, including from Ksoo's own father, who implicated him, and social media posts where Ksoo allegedly mocked Bibi's death in his rap lyrics. A trial date was originally set for March 2025, but has been delayed to July 2025 due to outstanding discovery issues. The escalation continued with the January 15, 2020 murder of Charles Lil Buck McCormick Jr., for which Ksoo was convicted on July 31, 2025. Prosecutors painted a picture of calculated revenge with Ksoo, cousin Leroy Whitaker, and getaway driver Dominique Barner stalking McCormick after he released a diss track mocking Willie Addison's death. The evidence was overwhelming. Dashcam footage showed a shooter matching Ksoo's description chasing and firing at McCormick. His fingerprint was found on a rifle in the getaway car, while DNA evidence linked him to a rolled-up white t-shirt found next to the weapon. The statistical odds were staggering, over 700 billion to 1 that the DNA belonged to someone other than Ksoo. Getaway driver Dominique Barner became the state's star witness after accepting a plea deal that reduced his potential life sentence to 20 years. Barner testified on July 25, 2025, detailing how he found McCormick's address online, waited outside his apartment, followed him to a plaza in a stolen Nissan Altima, and fled after Ksoo allegedly shot him multiple times. The defense tried to create reasonable doubt by arguing that Ksoo's size, 6 feet 1 inch and 230 pounds, didn't match the slimmer shooter seen in the video. They also challenged witness credibility, noting Barner's history of lying to police and his multiple plea deals in other murder cases. However, the mountain of evidence was too substantial to overcome. Ksoo's criminal history wasn't just limited to these high-profile murders. While he had no prior felony convictions before his 2020 arrest, his rapid escalation into violent crime marked a dramatic transformation from wannabe rapper to alleged serial killer. On October 5, 2021, while awaiting trial at Duval County Jail, Ksoo was involved in a physical altercation.
He's around 6'3".
And keep in mind, shooter doesn't stop, say measure me. He's running and gunning.
The state argued that size descriptions may have varied because the shooter was in motion and it was a chaotic scene. During closing arguments, the state addressed the height and weight concerns, saying some witnesses didn't give the exact measurements because it was a quick, intense situation, adding that Robinson may have gained weight since the
with corrections officers. Surveillance video showed an officer slamming him to the ground after he resisted returning to his cell, allegedly threatening officers and making gurgling noises as if to spit. Ksoo's family claimed he was being targeted, citing a simultaneous shooting of his sister, Karen Robinson, in the face at Avenues Mall that same day, though no direct connection was proven. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office investigated and found the officer's use of force justified with no charges filed against Ksoo for the incident. However, the incident highlighted how even behind bars, the violence and paranoia of street life continued to follow him. Ksoo was arrested on September 10, 2020, following an investigation into multiple murders linked to the ATK gang feud. He was initially charged with first-degree murder as a criminal gang member for Lil Buck's killing, which carries a mandatory life sentence without parole in Florida upon conviction. He has remained in custody without bond since his arrest, facing pretrial hearings as early as April 2025. The prosecution's case was strengthened by cell phone tower data that placed devices near the murder scene at the time of the killing. Though they couldn't definitively prove it was Ksoo's phone, the data showed suspicious activity patterns, with his main phone going silent for 6 hours around the time of the murder from 7:11 a.m.m. to 1:10 p.m.m. on January 15, 2020. FBI experts testified about the significance of this communication blackout, suggesting it was intentional to avoid detection. The prosecution argued this was similar to using a stolen car to commit murder, something that couldn't be traced back to you. But perhaps the most damaging evidence came from Ksoo's own social media activity and music. His Instagram posts and rap lyrics were dissected by investigators, with JSO Sergeant Christopher Smith testifying about how tracks like Ksoo Homicide contained details only the killer would know. The prosecution argued these weren't artistic expressions, but literal confessions to murder. The case also revealed the extent of the Robinson family's involvement in Jacksonville's gang violence. Ksoo's brother, Abdul Jr., faces separate charges for the same Lil Buck murder, while their father put him away forever, completing a cycle of violence and betrayal that defines the streets he claimed to represent. Yo fam, we have finally come to the end of the video. To be the first to get all trendy gossip happening in the DAP community, click on the card showing on the screen. In conclusion, Ksoo's life has been forever changed by his involvement in the ATK gang war. From his rise to fame as a drill rapper to his alleged involvement in multiple murders, Ksoo's story serves as a harsh reminder of the devastating impact of this conflict on families, communities, and individuals. As we say goodbye to Ksoo and the world he knew, it's clear that his legacy will forever be marred by violence and betrayal. His music career is over, his family is fractured beyond repair, and his name will forever be associated with the deadly gang war that consumed Jacksonville streets. In conclusion, Ksoo's life has been forever changed by his involvement in the ATK gang war. From his rise to fame as a drill rapper to his alleged involvement in multiple murders, Ksoo's story serves as a harsh reminder of the devastating impact of this conflict on families, communities, and individuals. As we say goodbye to Ksoo and the world he knew, it's clear that his legacy will forever be marred by violence and betrayal. His music career is over, his family is fractured beyond repair, and his name will forever be associated with the deadly gang war that consumed Jacksonville streets.
Charles was?
I did.
About how close would you say you got to him?
All the way to him.
And what did you see?
His leg was separated and half his face was gone.